I spent the last couple of months with the Snowsky Echo Mini. It's a $60 digital audio player by FiO, and I think I'm finally ready to tell you all about it. So in this video, we're going to cover the specs, the features, the user experience, and how it sounds, and then we're going to stack it up against my Hi-Fi Walker H2, which is twice the price. But before we dive in, if you use the Snowsky Echo Mini, I'd love if you left a comment and let me know what you think of it. Or if you have a suggestion for a better alternative, I'd love to hear that too. And if you think I earned it with this video, I would so appreciate if you liked it, shared it with a friend, and subscribed to the channel. All right, let's start with the general specs and get that out of the way. This thing absolutely lives up to its mini name. Comes in at about 3.1 inches wide by 2.1 inches tall and about half an inch thick, or 80 by 54.5 by 14.5 millimeters. It comes in at just under 2 ounces, or about 55 grams, and the screen is 1.99 inches at a 170 by 320 resolution. All that is to say, this thing is small and light. A lot smaller and lighter than I had expected, to be honest. On the inside, it has 8 gigs of internal storage, but takes SD cards up to 256 gigs. It has a 3.5 millimeter single-ended output and a 4.4 millimeter balanced output for wired connections, and Bluetooth 5.3 for wireless headphones or connecting in your car. Though I will say that I have noticed some documentations and people saying that it doesn't pair with Apple AirPods. I don't personally own or use AirPods, so I can't really speak to that, but it is something to be aware of and to look into if you do use them. Though I will say that if you're going to get the best experience out of this device, wired headphones or IEMs are going to be better anyway. It also has 2 Cirrus Logic CS43131 DACs inside, and it claims to be able to drive a huge range of headphones with a variety of levels of impedance with up to 250 milliwatts of power. I'm not an audiophile, and I'm not going to pretend to be one here, so I'll leave a link in the comments to FiO's specs page so you can brush up on more of those specifics if that's what you're looking for. But that said, it does support FLAC up to 24-bit along with WAV, MP3, OGG, M4A, and pretty much every file type you might expect it to. And on the battery end, it has an 1100 milliamp hour battery and claims about 15 hours of battery life, which is on par with what I've experienced. But with all those specs, you do get some pretty cool features. It supports gain adjustment between high and low, has custom EQ tuning, precise volume control with 120 steps. You can save tracks to a favorites list and essentially create your own playlists of your favorite music from your library. But I think one of my favorite features is its ability to be used as a DAC for other devices. When you plug your Echo Mini into your computer via the USB-C port, you're given 2 options, USB data or USB DAC. And selecting the data option is how you'll access the device and the SD card to load your music onto it, but selecting the USB DAC option allows you to use the Echo Mini as an external DAC for your computer. So if you have a standard computer with the stock sound card, this will very likely significantly improve the audio that you're listening to if you're listening to music from your computer. And it's great because it even works with your phone. You can use a USB-C cable to connect and use the Echo Mini as an external DAC that's going to sound a lot better than the built-in one on your phone as well. I've tested this extensively with a couple of different Pixel and Android phones and a Windows computer, and it's fantastic. I can't speak to the experience with Apple products because I don't use them or have them, but from what I've seen, from what I read and understand, it does work well there too. I think the most interesting thing about this, and what draws a lot of people to this device though, is that its design is really unique. It's meant to mimic an old Walkman cassette player. All of the buttons for navigation and selection and adjustment are on top, and you can even set the display to look like a cassette when it's playing, which is something that a lot of people seem to love. And then you can even tweak the sound because there's an equalizer that has a few different presets or custom EQ with 5 adjustable bands. You also have, like I said, that high and low gain adjustment. There's a bunch of playback options for looping songs, displaying artwork, limiting the volume. There's a whole lot you can do with it. So with all those specs and features, how is it actually using the device? I gotta say, honestly, I'm a lot happier with it than I thought I would be. Like I said earlier, this wasn't my first choice of DAPs. I got the Hi-Fi Walker H2 first. The primary reason that I did was because I wasn't excited about the Echo Mini with its navigation buttons. The H2 has a scroll wheel that was reminiscent of an iPod, whereas the Echo Mini uses those top buttons. And I thought that navigating the device with those buttons would be slow and cumbersome compared to that scroll wheel, but after using it for a couple of months, I gotta say, it's really not that bad. I think I do still prefer the scroll wheel on the H2, but with all the extra features and coming in at half the price, I can deal with slightly annoying navigation. And that's really all it is. It is slightly annoying. It's not terrible. It's not excruciating to get around the menus like I thought it would be. It just takes a little longer to get used to, and you gotta remember what the buttons do. Other than that, it feels decent. Like I said earlier, it's definitely small and light. It's a bit plasticky, but it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like it's gonna fall apart or anything like that. I think I'd like a little more weight to it, but for the price point, I'm not complaining too much. I think though, if they offered one that was aluminum and maybe $30 more, I'd probably go for that. But the most important question is, how does it sound? And in short, it sounds great. Now, just to reiterate the point, I'm not an audiophile. I'm not sampling DACs and discerning the differences the way some people taste wine. I can hear and appreciate the difference between poor quality gear and decent quality gear, but the jump from decent to great or budget to high end is mostly lost on me. I see the biggest difference in making sure my audio sources are high quality, so like FLACs or high quality MP3s over hugely compressed CD rips from 2004, and that I'm using wired headphones over Bluetooth. Now when I listen to this, I'm listening on either a pair of Linsol KZ-ZS10 Pro 2 IEMs, which are about $50 some, or Philips SHP 9600 over-ear headphones, which were like $80 a few years ago. Both of them are pretty entry-level products, but both sound great with the Echo Mini. There's depth and separation in the music. It gets appropriately loud, and I'm picking out details that I've never heard before in some of my favorite music. So I'd say that it's far, far better than I would have expected for a $60 device. I also gotta say, I do really like the retro design. I thought it was a little gimmicky at first, but it has grown on me. The cassette player look of the case and the display are fun, and there's a ton of colors to choose from. But the biggest draw for me is the ability to use it as an external DAC for my computer and phone. I didn't think that I'd use that feature very much, but now I use it pretty much every day. It's just such a cool addition that I don't think many other devices, especially at this price point, can do. But on the other end of things, in terms of cons, I just gotta go back to those buttons. Like I said, the navigation isn't horrible, but it does take some getting used to and figuring things out. The volume up and down buttons also move the cursor up and down. The play button acts as the select button, and the back button is the back button. But while music is playing, the volume buttons serve multiple purposes depending on how you have it set up. While you're listening to music, a single click on the volume buttons will either raise or lower the volume, but depending on your settings, a long press will either skip or restart the track, or will fast forward or rewind the track, which has been kind of annoying in some circumstances where I just want to raise the volume significantly, and instead of like repeatedly pressing the button over and over to raise the volume, I'll just hold it down thinking that the volume will go up, and all of a sudden I'm skipping to the next track. But my biggest gripe about the buttons is that they are a little loud when you click them. In general, it's not terrible, but on the days that I'm working in the office, I feel bad scrolling through and clicking too much because I know it annoys the people around me. Now, like I said at the beginning, this is not the first DAP that I've purchased. Before I got the Echo Mini, I had been using the Hi-Fi Walker H2 for a few months as well, and I think now is a good chance to do a little comparison, give you an idea of which one might be the right one for you. If you want to see my full review of the H2, I'll link the video here for you and put it down in the description. I'm going to start off comparing the sound because honestly, this is the easiest one, I think. To my ears, again, non-audiophile ears, they both sound great. Listening to them side by side to the same track with the same EQ, there's not a lot of difference. If anything, I think I'd say that the Echo Mini sounds a little brighter while the H2 hits the low end a little more, but I think with the right EQ settings, you can get either one to sound exactly how you want it to. So I think in the sound quality department, it's a bit of a wash between the two. But outside of the audio, the big difference between these two devices is with the navigation and the UI. Personally, I prefer the scroll wheel on the H2. I just think it feels better, it's smoother, it's quieter, it's a little more intuitive, and it just has my preference. But the screen is smaller, and I don't exactly like the look of the UI quite as much. One nice thing about the H2 is that you can change the look of it with custom firmware like Rockbox, which will give you a whole lot of personalization and customization options with skins and different looks and feels, and I've had some fun playing around with that and making it look a little better. But that might not be everyone's cup of tea. It might not be something that you want to dive into and do with your device. Also, adding Rockbox to the H2 breaks Bluetooth, which means it doesn't work in my car. The Echo Mini doesn't have Rockbox available, but honestly, I don't think it needs it. The interface is fine as it is. And at the same time, the Echo Mini has some of those extra features that the H2 is missing, like that ability to act as a portable DAC for your phone or computer. But the one thing it doesn't have that the H2 does have is gapless playback, which is kind of a bummer on the Mini. I do also think that the H2 feels like a more premium product in your hand compared to the Echo Mini, but that premium feel also contributes to the higher price tag. So when it comes down to it, which do I prefer and which one do I think you should get? Well, all cards on the table. I think if I were getting my first DAP again, knowing what I know now, I'd get the Echo Mini. I do prefer the navigation on the H2 and the nicer feel, but that isn't worth essentially double the price. The sound quality is basically equal. The navigation is a little less satisfying on the Mini, but the UI is better and it has that pass-through DAC. So I just think it's the better way to go if you're looking for your first portable audio player. But I'd love to know what you think. If you have an Echo Mini or an H2 or any other favorite DAP, what do you love about it? If you're interested in picking either one of these up, I have links down in the description. They're affiliate links, so using them doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps me out a little bit with making these videos and getting new gear to test. And if you like this video, I would so appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up, shared it with a friend, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. But until next time, I'm Kyle, and this is Hendy Creek. Music was everything to me growing up, but somehow life got in the way, and for 15 years I barely listened to anything new. Now I'm 40 and I'm diving back in, one song, one album at a time, and sharing that journey with you. Welcome to Hendy Creek.